What if your child could see the world again? But the price of that miracle was something you could never explain. The question rang in Harold Whitmore's mind like a curse as he stared at the boy across the table. His son Daniel sat quietly, his pale blue eyes unfocused, gazing into a void no one else could see. The boy's fingers traced the wooden grain of the chair, as though memorizing its shape. The dinner table was grand, the kind only men like Harold could afford. Mahogany polished to a shine, crystal glasses reflecting chandeliers overhead, plates rimmed in gold. But in that silence, the wealth felt hollow. "Eat, Daniel," Harold said gently, pushing a fork toward his son's hand. The words, though soft, carried the weight of exhaustion. Years of specialists, surgeries, therapies, every cure promised, every hope shattered. Daniel had been blind since the accident 3 years ago. "I'm not hungry," Daniel whispered, his voice small but steady. He tilted his head as though listening to something no one else could hear. Harold leaned back, rubbing his temples. He was a millionaire who had built empires, crushed competitors, signed deals that shaped industries. He could command a room with his voice, sway governments with a single donation. But he couldn't give his only son back his sight. And that made him powerless. From the doorway, a woman watched silently. Evelyn Carter, the maid Harold had hired less than 6 months ago. She was in her early 40s, her dark skin carrying the quiet dignity of someone who had endured storms and survived them. Her uniform was simple, pressed neatly despite the long hours she worked. She had seen many rich men in her life, some cruel, some indifferent, some broken. Harold Whitmore was different. Behind the polished exterior, behind the iron voice he used with the world, there was a man hollowed out by guilt and grief. And she had seen Daniel, lonely, withdrawn, living in a world of shadows. It broke her heart. That night, when Harold left the table to take an urgent call, Daniel stayed seated, his untouched food cooling on the plate. Evelyn approached quietly, kneeling beside him. "You all right, sweetheart?" she asked softly. Daniel smiled faintly. "I can tell it's you, Miss Evelyn." "Your shoes. They squeak sometimes," she chuckled, though her heart tightened. "Clever boy." Daniel turned his face toward her voice. "Do you think I'll ever see again?" The question cut through her like a knife. She could have lied, offered comfort, but children sensed the truth, so she swallowed hard. "Sometimes the world surprises us, Daniel. Sometimes when we least expect it." Her hand moved almost instinctively, brushing a curl of hair from his forehead. And then, without thinking, she placed her fingertips gently over his eyes. Daniel flinched. "What are you doing?" "Just trying something my mama used to do," Evelyn whispered. She'd say a prayer with her hands, and it always made me feel safe. Her palms were warm, trembling slightly as she closed her eyes. She didn't speak the words aloud, but in her heart she begged, "Lord, if there's mercy left in this world, let this child have it." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then, Daniel gasped. His small hands shot up, clutching hers. It's bright," he stammered. His unfocused eyes widened, darting beneath her fingers. I see something, shapes, light, colors." Evelyn's eyes flew open. "What?" Daniel pulled her hands away, blinking rapidly. His pupils contracted, struggling as if awakening from a long sleep. "The chandelier. It's glowing! And your face. I can almost—" His voice broke into a laugh and a sob all at once. "I can see you!" Evelyn's knees went weak. She stumbled back, clutching the edge of the table. "Oh, Lord, have mercy!" Harold's voice boomed from the doorway. "What's going on here?" Both turned sharply. He stood frozen, phone in hand, staring at his son. Daniel's eyes, wide and shimmering, met his father's for the first time in years. "Dad, I can see the light!" Daniel shouted, pointing toward the chandelier. His voice cracked with joy and disbelief. The phone slipped from Harold's hand, clattering to the floor. "That's impossible," he whispered. His heart pounded, his rational mind rejecting what his eyes told him. His boy had been declared beyond hope. Every specialist had sworn it. Yet Daniel was blinking, crying, laughing, seeing, and Evelyn, trembling, stood rooted to the floor, terrified not of what had happened, but of what it meant. The impossible had happened. But miracles always come with shadows. Later that night, Harold sat in his study, whiskey untouched beside him. His hands trembled as he replayed the scene in his mind. Evelyn had touched Daniel's eyes. And then, sight. He demanded she explain, but she only shook her head, stammering that she didn't know, that it was nothing. But Harold had seen the way she looked, like someone hiding a truth too heavy to speak, and Harold Whitmore did not believe in coincidences. At midnight, he called his lawyer. "I don't care what time it is. Find me everything about Evelyn Carter, her past, her family, where she came from. Spare no expense." Meanwhile, in her small apartment across town, Evelyn sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her hands. They tingled faintly, as though some hidden current still ran through them. She whispered into the silence, her voice breaking, "Lord, what did you just do through me?" Because deep inside, she knew this wasn't just chance. It wasn't medicine. It was something else. Something she didn't want the world, especially Harold Whitmore's world, to ever discover. But the world had already noticed. The next morning, Daniel bounded into the breakfast room, no longer guided by touch but by sight. His laughter filled the mansion, echoing off the marble walls. Staff members whispered in corners, eyes wide with disbelief. News, in houses like these, never stayed secret for long. And as Harold watched his son hug Evelyn tightly, thanking her over and over, a terrible question formed in his mind. What if the one person who could give Daniel back his sight was also the one person I could never trust? The thought chilled him, because Harold Whitmore didn't just see Evelyn as a maid anymore. He saw her as something else entirely, something dangerous. And outside the mansion gates, a black SUV idled, its tinted windows concealing a man on the phone. "Yes," he said coldly, eyes fixed on the Whitmore estate. "It's begun. The boy can see again." "You think miracles come without a price?" "That's where you're wrong." The words echoed in Harold Whitmore's mind as he sat across from Evelyn Carter in the grand library of his estate. The tall windows spilled daylight across shelves of leather-bound volumes, but Harold's gaze never left the woman in front of him. She sat rigid, her maid uniform freshly pressed, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Tell me," Harold began, voice low, measured, "what did you do to my son last night?" Evelyn's throat tightened. She looked down, avoiding his eyes. "I told you, sir. I don't know. I was just praying." "Praying doesn't restore sight," Harold snapped, though he kept his voice controlled, almost surgical. "Not after what the doctors have said. They told me Daniel's retinas were beyond repair, permanent damage. Yet he's running around this morning, reading signs, describing the color of the roses in the garden. So, Mrs. Carter, I'll ask you again, what did you do?" Evelyn's fingers dug into her palms. "I swear, Mr. Whitmore, I don't know how it happened. I just wanted to comfort him." Harold leaned forward, his gray eyes sharp. "I don't believe in accidents. My entire life, I've built empires on the certainty that cause and effect can be tracked. Everything has a reason. And if you're the reason my boy can see again, then I will know why." The silence stretched. Evelyn's heart pounded. She wanted to speak the truth, but she couldn't. She didn't even understand it herself. Finally, she whispered, "Sometimes things happen that we can't explain." Harold studied her, searching for cracks in her resolve. For the first time in years, he felt a dangerous mix of emotions, hope, fear, and suspicion. That afternoon, Harold received a visitor. His private investigator, Raymond Cole, arrived in a crisp gray suit, a file tucked under his arm. "You wanted everything on Evelyn Carter?" Cole said, sliding the folder across Harold's desk. "It's interesting." Harold opened it, scanning quickly. "Evelyn Carter, born in Louisiana. Mother, Naomi Carter. Father, unknown. No criminal record. Worked as a caretaker, housekeeper, and cleaner for most of her life. Nothing unusual, but then Harold's eyes narrowed at a highlighted note. Naomi Carter was known in her community for healing hands. Rumors of curing illnesses, easing pain, restoring health, folk medicine. Old superstitions, Cole explained, watching Harold carefully. But the pattern's there. People swore by her touch. Called it a gift from God. Others called it witchcraft. Harold's jaw tightened. "And the daughter?" "Evelyn?" Cole shrugged. "No documented incidents. But people in her old neighborhood, they said she had something too. That's why she keeps moving from job to job. People get nervous." Harold closed the file slowly. His world was one of numbers, deals, predictability. But this was chaos. Unexplainable, dangerous. Keep digging, he ordered. Find me everything, and keep it discreet. That night, Evelyn sat awake long after Daniel had gone to bed. She clutched an old locket in her hands, the only thing she had left of her mother. Inside was a faded picture of Naomi Carter smiling warmly. "Why now, Mama?" Evelyn whispered. "Why him? Why this boy?" Her mother's words from long ago returned to her. "You'll carry the gift whether you want it or not. But remember, every gift draws attention. Some will seek it, some will fear it, and some will try to own it." Evelyn shivered, because she could feel it already, the eyes watching. Across town, in the dark interior of the black SUV, the man on the phone spoke again. His name was Victor Kane, a ruthless corporate rival who had once lost a fortune to Harold Whitmore's cunning. "You were right," he told the voice on the other end. "The boy can see. The maid has something. This could change everything." The voice crackled back, cold and calculated. "Then we need her." "Secure the maid and the boy if necessary. If Whitmore thinks he can keep this miracle to himself, he's mistaken. Imagine what her touch could mean on the open market." Victor's lips curled into a smile. "Consider it done." The next morning, Harold announced something unusual. "We're leaving," he told Evelyn and Daniel. Evelyn blinked. "Leaving, sir?" "Yes. My son's recovery must remain private. Until I understand what happened, I won't risk the press getting wind of it. We'll stay at my mountain estate for a few weeks." He looked at Evelyn pointedly. "And you're coming with us?" Evelyn's stomach twisted. She knew this wasn't protection, it was control. He wanted to watch her, to dissect her. Daniel, however, clapped his hands with excitement. "A trip? That sounds fun." Evelyn forced a smile for his sake. But inside, unease gnawed at her. The mountain estate was isolated, perched above cliffs and forests. Security guards patrolled the grounds. It was beautiful, but it felt like a cage. On their first night there, Evelyn wandered the halls, unable to sleep. She paused outside Harold's study, where she heard his low voice. Inside, Harold sat with two board members, his tone urgent. If her touch can restore sight, what else can it do? What if it can cure disease? Extend life? Do you understand the implications? His voice grew darker. If this gets out, governments, corporations, even criminals will hunt her. We must keep this contained, controlled. Evelyn's breath caught. She backed away silently, her heart hammering. She had been right. He didn't see her as a person anymore. He saw her as a weapon. Meanwhile, Daniel's recovery deepened. He could now read entire paragraphs, sketch pictures of trees and faces, run without stumbling. His laughter echoed through the house, a sound Evelyn cherished. But there were moments, brief, flickering, when his eyes clouded over as if struggling. Evelyn noticed. Harold did not. One afternoon, as they walked in the garden, Daniel grabbed her hand. "Miss Evelyn, promise me something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Promise you won't let them take this away from me." Her chest ached. She knelt, holding his face gently. "No one is going to take your sight, Daniel. Not if I can help it." But even as she said it, she felt the shadow growing around them. That shadow struck sooner than expected. On the third night, alarms shattered the quiet. Shouts echoed through the estate. Evelyn rushed to Daniel's room, finding him sitting up, terrified. "What's happening?" he cried. "Stay with me," she ordered, pulling him close. The door burst open, Harold, pale and furious. "Intruders! Stay inside!" Gunfire cracked in the distance. Evelyn's heart raced. This wasn't just a burglary. This was targeted. Harold barked into his phone. "Lock down the estate. No one gets in or out!" But Evelyn knew the truth. No wall was high enough, no guard strong enough to stop those who wanted her gift. And as she clutched Daniel tightly, the boy whispered through his tears, "They're here for you, aren't they?" Evelyn couldn't answer, because deep down she knew he was right. Do you believe in miracles or in power? The question rang like thunder in Evelyn Carter's mind as the estate's alarms screamed. She clutched Daniel, shielding his trembling body against hers, while Harold Whitmore's furious voice barked orders to his guards. Gunshots echoed outside. Boots pounded the halls. Glass shattered. The mountain refuge, meant to be a fortress, now felt like a trap. Harold's face was pale, but his eyes were blazing with determination. "They've come for you," he hissed at Evelyn. "But they won't take what's mine." "Yours?" Evelyn shot back, trembling with anger. "I'm not a thing to own." "Neither is your son's sight." But Harold didn't answer. His phone buzzed, security shouting updates, and then went dead in his hands. Power cut. Darkness swallowed the halls, broken only by the flicker of emergency lights. Victor Kane stepped through the broken gates like a general entering conquered territory. His black-clad mercenaries spread across the estate with ruthless efficiency. His lips curved into a cold smile. "Find the maid," he ordered. "Alive, the boy too, if possible. Whitmore's empire ends tonight." Behind him, the men carried strange equipment, cases with restraints, medical scanners, vials. They weren't just here to kidnap. They were here to harvest. Harold shoved Evelyn and Daniel into a reinforced chamber hidden behind a bookshelf. The steel door sealed with a hiss. "We'll be safe here," Harold muttered, pacing like a caged animal. Daniel clung to Evelyn's arm. His voice shook. "Why are they after us?" "Miss Evelyn, what did you do to me?" Evelyn's throat tightened. "I don't know, sweetheart. I never wanted this. I only wanted to comfort you." But Harold wheeled on her, fury barely restrained. "You expect me to believe you don't understand? Your mother had a reputation. Healing hands, supernatural touch. And you awakened it on my son. That's why Kane wants you." Evelyn shook her head violently. "I never asked for this gift." Daniel's eyes welled. "But I'm glad you did, because now I can see you. I can see the world. Don't take it away." Tears stung her eyes. She hugged him close. "I'll never take it away, baby, never." The panic room shook with a dull boom, explosives. Dust rained from the ceiling. Harold froze. "How are they breaching this quickly?" "Impossible!" Evelyn's stomach dropped. She thought of the staff. Some of them had looked at her strangely after Daniel's recovery. Too reverent, too afraid. One of them must have sold them out. The lock screeched. Sparks flew. The door buckled. "Stay behind me!" Harold growled, pulling a hidden pistol from his jacket. The steel gave way, and Victor Kane himself stepped through, calm and collected. His men fanned out, guns trained. "Hello, Whitmore," Kane said with mock politeness. His eyes slid to Evelyn. "And this must be the miracle." Evelyn straightened, shielding Daniel with her body. "I'm not your miracle. I'm a person," Kane smirked. "Oh, you're more than that. You're the key to rewriting medicine, warfare, even immortality. And you've been wasted scrubbing floors." "Typical." Harold raised his pistol. "You'll have to kill me before you touch them." Kane's grin widened. "That can be arranged." Before the standoff could explode, Daniel stumbled forward, clutching his head. His eyes clouded white again. "Miss Evelyn!" he cried, voice breaking. I can't see." Evelyn dropped to her knees, panic flooding her. She cupped his face, her thumbs brushing his eyelids. "Breathe, Daniel, breathe." Kane watched, fascinated. "Do it again, heal him. Right here in front of us." "No!" Harold barked. "She doesn't answer to you." But Evelyn's heart raced. Her touch trembled as she whispered prayers. Slowly, Daniel's vision cleared. He blinked, gasping, and whispered, "I see you again." The room froze. Kane's men stared, wide-eyed. Even Harold's mouth fell open. Kane stepped closer, awe and greed mixing in his gaze. "It's real. She can summon it at will. Do you understand what this means, Whitmore? Nations will pay billions, trillions. You could control the future." Harold hesitated. For the briefest moment, Evelyn saw the hunger in his eyes. "You wouldn't dare," she whispered. Harold's jaw clenched. He shook his head hard as if forcing the temptation out. "She's not for sale," but Kane only laughed. "Then she's mine." Gunfire erupted. Harold fired first, striking one mercenary. Chaos exploded in the confined space. Evelyn grabbed Daniel and bolted through the breach, sprinting down the hall. Bullets whizzed past. She ducked, dragging Daniel into the shadows. "Mom!" Daniel screamed suddenly, pointing. "Evelyn's mother, Naomi?" No, her memory. A vision of Naomi stood in the hall, hand raised as if guiding them. Evelyn froze. Was it real or stress? But Daniel whispered, "I see her too." Naomi's phantom pointed toward a service stairwell. Evelyn didn't think. She ran. Behind them, Harold fought like a man possessed. He took down 2 mercenaries before Kane's men overwhelmed him. Kane loomed over him, sneering. You built empires by stealing from others? Now I'll steal from you. Harold spat blood. You'll never control her. She's stronger than you think. Kane pressed a boot to his chest. Everyone breaks, Whitmore. Everyone! Evelyn burst out into the cold mountain night, the forest stretching below. Searchlights swept the grounds. Dogs barked. She crouched with Daniel behind a tree, her heart hammering. His small hand gripped hers tightly. Miss Evelyn, he whispered. Why me? Why did it work on me? She brushed his cheek, her tears glistening. Because you believed, Daniel. You didn't see me as just a maid. You saw me! Branches snapped, mercenaries closing in. Run! Evelyn hissed. They scrambled through the undergrowth, pursued by shouts and flashlights. Every step felt like borrowed time. At the cliff's edge, Evelyn stopped. The drop plunged into darkness. Trapped, Kane emerged from the trees, flanked by men. Behind them, Harold stumbled, bloodied but alive, held at gunpoint. It ends here, Kane declared. Give me the maid. The boy, too, if you want them to live. Evelyn stood tall, Daniel behind her, her voice fierce despite the tremor. You'll never use me. My gift isn't for greed. It's for love, Kane scoffed. Love doesn't win wars. Love doesn't rule nations. No, Evelyn said softly. But it heals souls. And that's more powerful than you'll ever understand. Her hands trembled, glowing faintly now, whether from adrenaline, faith, or something beyond. Daniel's eyes widened. Miss Evelyn, you're shining! Kane lunged forward. But before he could touch her, the ground shook. A rumble like thunder split the cliffside. Rocks crumbled beneath Kane's feet. He screamed as the earth gave way, tumbling into the abyss with his men. Silence followed, broken only by the wind. Dawn broke over the battered estate. Survivors tended wounds. Police and federal agents swarmed the grounds. Evelyn sat on the steps, Daniel curled against her. He was safe. He could still see Harold approached, limping, his face pale with exhaustion. He stopped before Evelyn, guilt heavy in his eyes. I was wrong, he admitted hoarsely. I saw you as a tool, a possession, but you saved him. You saved us all. Evelyn looked up, her expression weary but resolute. I didn't do it alone. My mother's gift. It was never about power. It was about faith, about choosing love over fear. Harold's voice cracked. Then maybe there's hope for me yet. Daniel lifted his head, smiling softly. There's always hope, Dad. For the first time in years, Harold pulled his son into his arms, truly holding him, and Evelyn, watching the sunrise, whispered to herself, Mama, I kept the gift safe. I used it for good. The wind seemed to answer, carrying Naomi Carter's voice like a blessing. And that's all I ever wanted. Months later, whispers of the miracle Maid spread beyond the estate. Some dismissed it as rumor, others as myth, but those who had seen it knew better. Evelyn returned quietly to her life, still Daniel's caretaker, but now more than that. She was family. And every time Daniel opened his eyes to greet a new day, he remembered the touch that had given him sight, not just of the world, but of the truth, that miracles are not meant to be caged. They are meant to set people free,